Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Healed and Chilled. And today we have yet another awesome and amazing, wonderful special guest. And you guys know how I like to do it here. I like for the guest to have control of the narrative. So, if you would, in your own words, from your own point of view, could you please introduce yourself and we'll dive right into the interview.
Absolutely. Hello there. I am Christina Vidovich. I am the founder of Women Getting Visible. I am a visibility strategist, and one of the things I absolutely love doing is sharing story. It is so important for me in this world while I'm on this big blue and green planet to talk to other women and share our stories because they're all so unique. But the fun thing is we have so many life shared experiences as well. Whether we live in different cultures, there's some kind of thread that brings us all together. Whether we're mothers, we're aunts, we're somebody's daughter, we have stories that other women can take away from us and share with their life and legacy. So that is a little bit about who I am.
Awesome. So how did you get started, specifically helping women, and why specifically sharing their stories? Because there's so many ways you can help women. So why storytelling and why women specifically?
That's a great question. So, my previous life as a professional ballroom dancer, I ran a studio. And what I loved were the conversations as the instructors were changing into their ballroom shoes or changing into their ballet shoes and just sharing stories like, oh, this was my day, this is what happened. And I got to be a fly on the wall because as the boss, I couldn't always chime in and jump in those conversations, but they were so fun to listen to. And then
Hmm.
the other thing is when you go back and you see your high school friends or your college friends who you haven't seen for 2 years, 5 years, some cases 10 or more, and you have these conversations and you pick up where you left off, like a day hasn't gone by and you're like, oh my gosh, and how's your mom? And how's your family? And how is everything? And it's just so wonderful. And I'm like, wow, if these are the conversations that I'm having and I'm listening to, what about the other stories that I don't know? And I'll be honest with you, I'm the one who's sitting at the restaurant or the coffee shop leaning over to listen to others' conversations because they're so good. There's something that you can learn, something of value because look, we can only live our life while we're here. We can only be responsible for our hands, our feet, our mind, our heart while we're here. But there's so many things that we can learn from other people and women specifically because look, we have a unique place in life as girls, as women that are different from the fellas. And I
Hmm.
think that is what's so wonderful is when we can share the thread of our stories together. So yeah, that's definitely why it's been about sharing and about women.
Absolutely. So the next question that I would have then is there anything that you learned about from your ballroom dancing days and owning the studio that you use in your current business with helping women get visible? Is there any synergy there or similarities, or is it like a totally different hat?
It is absolutely the same hat, but different pair of shoes.
Oh, love that.
So yeah, it's interesting because I learned embodied the words transferable skills. I've met so many women who've been in corporate and then they've gone on to their entrepreneurial life. And you've used this term, transferable skills. Well, what are your transferable skills? I'm like, oh, I get it now. I had put over
Mm.
25,000 dancers from ages 2
Sheesh.
to 87 on stage.
Wow.
So put them in performing of small
Wow.
groups. Yes, putting in them on stages of small groups, maybe sometimes only 20 people watching, sometimes for their own wedding. and then our bigger programs for the children. And so it was a natural step to change over what the stage looked like from going from dancers to women entrepreneurs, founders, and leaders who wanted to hold a microphone and
Mm,
share their stories. And how many times I've talked to women of going, I wish there were more stages. I wish there were more stages. I heard the pain
mm.
point and said, guess what? Let me do this. Let me be the one to offer another stage for women to share those stories. So that's a little bit more, yeah.
Absolutely. So, how do you create those stages? I know that you do conferences and things, but can for someone who's just learning about you, how do you help women get visible? What are the steps? What are your offerings? What are the solutions?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Because one of the first things I explain about visibility is we can chase it all day long, but it's not about chasing. It's about being and it's about finding our message from within. And once we
Mm,
get that clarity of, oh, this is where I am in my life right now, and this is kind of my inner mission of what I should be doing and where I'm going. Once we have that clarity, then we start to fall into our alignment. And that alignment starts to bring about that visibility. So everyone that I meet who are looking, what is it that you do, Christina? I'm like, we start with finding what is your message. Because I can sit and I can analyze, and I do, what your social profiles look like, what your podcasts or branding our businesses, that it all shows alignment
mm,
to our messaging. So that's really what I do. So, yeah, and bringing women to the conferences. So we have multiple conferences. We have our first conference was October of 25 in Washington, D.C. Second one,
mhm.
Minneapolis, June of 2026. October, we'll be back in Washington, D.C. And we already have four different cities that we're looking at for 27. So
Wow.
when women just look up women getting visible on all the socials, you can find out about all the things we're doing for opportunities to speak, from being a keynote, running workshops, or just being part of the audience and
Hmm.
coming on the stage, because that's a special offer that we have that's unique to a lot of conferences, is offering a open mic, and it's actually called
Mm.
Story Sparks open mic. So what
Oh,
story did you get sparked? Yes, in the
yes.
room, because again, being in a room with other women is so powerful that I have watched women right there in the conference completely get changed and say, oh my
Mm.
gosh, can I sign up and speak? And you have to be in the room to sign up at the conference, to sign up for those Story Spark moments, so that they come in and they actually share stories, some that they've never told another living person until they step
Wow.
on the stage, or try out something of going, you know what, I've been thinking about this. One of the women, she was talking about, I've been really understanding what manifestation, like, there's so many levels of what manifestation looks like. She goes, let me see about my version and how that lands with the audience. I'm like, absolutely, come on up. Here's the microphone. So it's so much fun to like just invite women from around the globe really to come in and speak at these events.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And I think what you do is so needed as well because having spaces where even if you're not too certain about what you're doing, but just like a safe space to come share space with women who are at different levels, get feedback, it's so necessary. And then storytelling and visibility. So I can throw out all these different ideas of whys and things, but you're really the expert here. So why is storytelling so essential as well to visibility? And is it possible to tell the wrong story and get the wrong type of visibility? And just anything you can share about that.
I love this question. It's funny. I don't necessarily think there's a wrong story, but there are some stories out there that can get really, really tempered. For
Hmm.
example, I have a friend who's in the podcasting world, and her podcast is all about reality shows. And so
Okay.
we had this conversation about what does that look like? And, the difference is for a 24-year-old gal who's telling the story, who is actually speaking her truth at the moment, knowing that in today's world, that material is going to be evergreen. So in
Mm,
20 years from now, when you're 44 and you look back at your 24-year-old self, you might go, hmm. Maybe I shouldn't have said that, but
fair
there's that
enough.
level, right? But there's that level where it's like you have to own that there's growth. So anytime we're putting
Mm,
ourselves out there, yes, our life experiences are going to change, our attitudes about things are going to change, but to stay fluid and stay flexible, it's just like, you know what? This is what I've seen and this is what I feel today. But life could change me, and might have a completely
mm.
different experience because of that. I mean, I'll tell you that myself. I know at 24, I was judgy. I had
Me
attitudes about
too.
things, right? Things and people. And then life came
Hmm.
and just would smack me on the hand, and something similar would happen. I'm like, oh, you know what?
Hmm.
Until you walk a mile in someone's shoes, you don't know. And
Mm,
that happened with anything I've ever been judgy about. So, yeah, like just really be careful about the stories that you want to tell and you want to share because you can't take them back. That's really
mm,
what I feel like when it comes to like our own storytelling of our own life or what we want to share. And just be kind.
mm.
Can we get a little kindness out there with others?
Yes.
Again, the way you're feeling today and somebody making you angry or have negative feelings,
Hmm.
now some of those might stay. And we all know those things are out there.
Yeah.
But are they dirty laundry that we need to share? Or can we
Mm,
just keep it and save that for another day? Because again, some of those people might come and have a different life because come to a different light because
hmm.
their life experience suddenly taught them something they didn't know when they crossed your path and
Mm.
showed up in a way that they did. So yeah.
Absolutely. And so to piggyback on that, what if someone, let's say, is a little bit nervous to get visible now because maybe they were a little bit more boisterous or judgy or just loud, all the things that we are when we're young and we think we know everything and like I would never do this and perhaps they did say those things in the public face and now or maybe they did things that they're embarrassed about or guilty or shame or whatever. And now they're at a precipice in their life where they have to get visible, but they're like, I don't want to get too visible because of X, Y, and Z. What would you say to that person?
There's a lot of humility in that when you step up, because it's one of those things like when you see in the public eye, for example, and celebrities is a great way, or sports figures,
Mm-hmm.
politicians who are forced sometimes to come forward and apologize for something.
Yeah.
Now, I'm a real stickler on only apologize if you actually mean it. If you're saying it just to save face and save likes and
Yeah.
followers, you have to really think about where is your ethical
Mm.
apology coming from in those kind of cases. So, yeah, there's a little bit of humility and growth that you have to go through to be able to go, okay, because haters are going to hate.
Yep. That is very true. That is
And
true.
putting yourself out there can be absolutely vulnerable. So knowing that when somebody is going to be that keyboard warrior and not like your message, just know that no matter what, there are
Mm.
going to be people out there that are never going to like your message for
Yep.
one reason or another. You have brown eyes. I don't like you. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's not my fault. I was born like that, but
Right.
that's their opinion and that's on them. That has nothing to do with you. So when you're speaking those messages, find that truth from within. So if there's something, that is in your past, just make amends with it so that you can step
Mhm.
forward into your truth as you're stepping into your next level of visibility and going, yep, that was me. That was then. Have I changed? This is how life has grown. And yes, these are things that I feel now. And
Mhm.
explain. I think that is the best part of the storytelling is explaining what happened
Mhm.
because that's human story right there. That's interest story.
Yeah.
So that's would be my advice as you're moving forward into that next space of your visibility. Don't be afraid to share that story because there are things that we've all done that we're embarrassed about.
Yeah. And I tell my students, mainly the older ones, that if you can look back at something and feel shame or guilt, it's proof that you've learned as well. Because if you would go back and say, I would do this thing differently, I wouldn't have done this, I would do this instead, that is proof of progress. And like Dr. Seuss says, those who care don't matter and those who matter don't care. So those keyboard warriors that you mentioned and that everybody knows about, the chances that their advice on what to do next you probably don't want to take anyway. And anyone who is making a change in life, they've also done some things in the past. So as long as you're learning and growing, those people who are judging you, sometimes even they're doing worse behind closed doors, but that's another conversation. So you have a lot of passion when it comes to helping people and helping women and just, being a voice, being a safe space. Is that something that you grew into being, or is that something that you've always been and now this is just the newest version or somewhere in the middle?
Again, your questions are amazing, Ayana. Absolutely love them.
Oh, thanks.
Yes. Well, it's fascinating because there's always been a thread from the time I was a child that was a safe space. I was the best friend you could tell your secrets to, and they weren't
Oh.
going anywhere. That was absolutely my promise. And I watched other girls who they get the secret, and then suddenly I would hear the secret that I'm not supposed to know. But that always stopped with
Mhm.
me. I was never a gossip. That was not who I was. And throughout life, throughout school, throughout my, career as a ballroom dancer, my degree is actually psychology. One of my degrees
Oh.
is psychology. So you learn to also from a ethical standpoint to protect people and protect people's secrets to divulge. And again, I think maybe that is just who I was. So it was a natural place for me to end up in that as one of my studies as well. But
Mhm.
creating those safe spaces, I think, is so important because of trust. And
Mhm.
what I find the biggest difference with women when it comes to running businesses, having relationships, is that know, like, trust. And having that trust with somebody of going, okay, here's a proven track record I can spill, and I know it
Mhm.
can stay in this space.
Mhm.
And that to me is so important because if we can have trust in each other and we can go deeper in those conversations, then just like you were talking about the growth, we have the opportunity to grow. We don't have to get stuck in that place.
Yes.
Yeah. So as we never get that story off of our chest, we stay there. We don't move forward. We don't get to go, release. It's off of me now, and I can go forward. Yeah. And I love
Mm.
what you said about the growth too, and the feeling of, okay, I have shame, I have guilt, I have feelings around my behavior in the past. But knowing at that time that was all the tools that you had.
Yeah.
You gained more tools for your toolbox to go, okay, this is who I am and where I can be now.
Yes. And, something about like women who have experienced different things and still feel like it's okay to lend a helping hand to the next one, or regardless of age or creed or anything. So, why to you is it important? Because I know a lot of different women in a lot of different stations of life, and it's not uncommon for someone to have done something and then they close the door rather than leave it open. And in fact, if you like knock, then they're like, get off my porch, get out of here. But you and others like you are like, hey, look, I have a warm supper, or I have a this, or I have a that. So why did you decide to each one teach one and then create that safe space? And then also, why is it important? Why not just you learned it? There's competition in this world. Why not just keep it to yourself?
Mm. Ooh, I love that. I'm going to come back to part two in just a second.
Mm-hmm.
But the learn one, um, it's yes. If it weren't for someone else giving me the opportunity to learn something, that is just my duty to give back, to
Mm,
share, to pass it on. What good does it if I'm the sponge and I'm absorbing, I'm absorbing, I'm absorbing? Eventually, that water's dripping. Okay, there's nothing I can do with it. If I squeeze
mm,
out my sponge, now suddenly I can absorb more
mm,
and I can learn more and I can keep growing and then I can keep giving back. So why not? Why not keep passing that forward?
mm,
Because I mean, life is all about moving forward. So to that competition piece, look, I am a woman of a certain age and I am past that feeling of competition because I
mm,
know who I am.
mm,
Now, I knew who I was before, but the difference is I have life experience behind these heels now that I've
mm,
walked in for miles and miles. And so, yeah, that attitude is, just so far behind. And
mm,
why someone would hold on to that as a feeling of competition, I don't know. I can't speak honestly anymore because without that openness, there isn't any room to grow. I don't
mm,
feel like there's competition. When I sit down with another woman, and if you're ever in a room with me when I'm speaking, one of the things that I say, and you were in a room where I said this, we're
mm-hmm.
all in our own genius.
Yes.
Why do I say that? Because you know things that I don't know. The person next to you knows things you don't know, and I
Mm-hmm.
don't know. And I know things that both of you don't know. So we are
Mm-hmm.
all in our own genius because of our life experience. And what good is it if I'm holding on to that and keeping that close to my chest and saying, I can't share with you?
Mm,
No, you know what I'm saying. It's just like, no. It's like, how are we going to grow as humans? How is the whole human race going to grow if we just keep it for ourselves? Come on over. Let's, if I don't even have a cup, have my coffee.
mm.
It's like, come on over. I can get another cup another day. So,
Yes.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna give you what I usually say for the end, but a signature round of applause a little bit early.
Oh,
That
thank you.
really, really great response. My question is, you have such a really pure energy, just a very
Thank you.
balanced and centered vibe. You're running in, about to do a podcast, and then joining the meeting or doing a presentation, and you're like always seem to just have a really good grasp on who you are, where you are, what you're doing. So how do you balance out life, or do you have any like daily that you do? Are you just a centered person? Like how do we become as balanced?
I love this. It's really, everybody talks about what does the work look like? What is it that you've done in the background? And absolutely, it's self-examination. It's really stopping and, hmm, when I have a big emotion about something, whatever it is, whether it's an anger emotion, a frustration, a joy, a laughter, when it's huge, stopping and recognizing that because it's our essence. It is absolutely our
Mm,
essence to have these emotions. And if you're triggered by something, well, what is it? Just like we talked a moment ago about when somebody else is having these emotions and they lay them on us and it's not necessarily us. It's just like, okay, did I get triggered by that? And what was it that made that moment? So in that self-examination of going, okay, wait a minute. Is this me? Isn't this me? And being able to define those
mm,
places in life. And that is one thing that I've even sat with, like with my current work of going, what do I and what don't I want? And I think about people
mm,
in my life. Who do I want and who don't I want? And that's a hard thing right there for people to say and admit. This person has been in my life for 30 years as a friend, but maybe it's time, and there's nothing wrong with it, that we part ways because we have different ideas
mm,
now. And it's okay. And I've had to let go of people in my life who sit in that negative void. And that's the only way I can think of it, as a negative void. I'm like, no, I'm
yes.
done with negative language. I'm done sitting there in that dark swirl of going, well, everybody's after me and they're trying to do this. And it's like,
Mm,
no. Nobody's sitting there pointing at you with bad feelings. Somebody had a bad day. They cut you off because they're in a hurry. I'm going to just push on
mm,
my brake and go, okay, you need to go. If I'm 2 minutes late, I'm 2 minutes late. It's okay. The world's not going to stop because I'm two
mm,
minutes late. And it's just like releasing and letting go of those things that we put on ourselves as time constraints and other people's wants and wishes. For an example, and I love this example, and this is what I say to someone who's coming to a space that I'm hosting. If you came in and you expected a chicken dinner and I just invited you for dinner, that expectation is on you.
mm,
I didn't tell you it was a chicken dinner. I said, come on over for dinner. I'm having an open offer to you. If you wanted to know if it was chicken or not, ask. Don't come in and get mad because it wasn't the
mm,
expectations that you were expecting for me to fulfill. And I'm not taking ownership for that. That is the lesson there, to let those things go. And like, no. Now, can I get upset of going, ooh, they put all that on me? Sure. But I'm going to sit with that and I'm going to feel it and going, okay, that's not mine. That's not mine to own.
mm,
And release it and let it go back into the universe. That's part of my staying grounded. And I'll tell you another one, making time for my family.
mm.
So you know that I have a just recently turned 12-year-old. I have to remember the new number now. It just happened this week.
Oh,
And I homeschool him. And I homeschool him for a number of reasons. And the biggest reasons is I travel a lot and I like to travel. It's not a need, it's a desire for my life and lifestyle. So
mm,
to be able to step away from my computer, from my phone calls, from all the networking, from all the conferences, workshops, retreats, everything that I do, and say, you know what? You're only little once. And
mm,
this hour that I'm going to sit and spend with you, that we're not necessarily sitting in books, but we're sitting and we're playing and we're talking and we're having conversations because this little human who's now 12, who's one day going to be 22 and
mhm,
32 and on, these moments are precious. And it's a grounding force to go, you know what? Be blessed, be
mm,
grateful, know in the moment that we have this moment. And so, yeah, that's another grounding force for me of going, why hang on to the ugly when I've got all this beautiful around me?
Mm, yes, put that on a t-shirt and sell it. Yes, you guys can't see, but I am snapping. Yes, yes, yes. Okay, so we are coming up a bit on the tail end. Is there anything that you wanted to highlight or talk about that you haven't yet had the opportunity to share? I do have other parts, but this is that time.
Oh, absolutely. I want to share more stories. I want more women in the room. And I'm simply going to tell you, look on the socials, Women Getting Visible. You will find me, Christina Vidovich. I am out there. Reach out. Let's have a conversation. That is the biggest, most important thing to me, is if you want a one-on-one conversation, let's get it on the schedule, wherever you are in your life. Again, you know, this visibility piece starts from the inner work. And if you want to have a conversation and a safe space to have a conversation with someone, come on, knock on my door, ring my bell. Let's let's do it. And then if you want to be out there and showcasing your work, let me help you. I That is one thing I absolutely love to do. I love to watch other women succeed because again, a hand down and is a hand up and a hand up is a hand down. We can all
Hmm.
help each other on this journey. So yeah, reach out, reach out.
Yes, 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 again. Alrighty. So this is the part where I like to switch it up a little bit. So you can do one thing or you can do both things. It's totally up to you. So
Okay.
if you have any questions for me, now is your time to ask. And or if you have any thanks or shout outs that you want to give, this is your time to do that as well. So for the next few minutes, you are in control of this interview.
Oh, fantastic. And I love being on this side of the microphone.
I'm
My
sure.
first shout out goes to you. The
Oh,
opportunity
thank
to,
you.
yes, to share this story with you and your listeners and be in the world. I am thankful for you. For the listeners out there, we met on a Zoom call. We took a chance
Hmm.
on each other because there was some kind of interesting magic going on. And I love continuing this conversation with you. And so, what I want to ask you is what is next in your world? Because I'm watching you speak, I'm watching you with this podcast, you're sharing your message, and it's so important as a mother that there are role models like you out there helping parents as well as the children who always are listening to the parents, right? So, what's next for you?
Yeah, great question. So, what's next for me? I'd like to start working with some schools and different programs and things because I already have a curriculum. And like you mentioned, I don't think that we're in competition because there's enough opposition going against the children that all of us who are trying to help them, we should just come together and do things as a unit, as a team. So
Yes.
I seek to be a value add, whether it's for a school, after school program, a homeschool cohort, a micro school, a therapist, just someone who can be an extension and an arm to say, hey, look, I already have a student base and there's still some gaps with the gaming, with the confidence, the leadership in that regard, whether it's the elementary schoolers or the teens going to college and things. I just want to work with more school systems, get in front of those parents and then be another branch. And then also outside of that or in tandem, I like to do more work with the local children because right now everything I do is virtual, which is good because children like being in virtual spaces. That's where they're comfortable. And though I would like to be able to impact my local community as well, like the children that I go to the grocery store with, so that my community directly is enriched and the Maryland, DC, Virginia area is enriched. So long story, still a little bit long. I would like to start working with some pre-established programs already that already have access to larger groups so that I can you do a little bit more and then also work more locally as well?
I love every bit of that. And it's so important. You know, speaking from the ballroom side of things, there was all about a movement, I want to say it might have been 20 years ago now, that someone said we need to bring ballroom in the American schools. Now, when you go to Europe, that's part of the curriculum, but here in the States,
Oh, wow.
yeah, we don't have that. It's been an after school program or a special program. There are now a few schools that have added that in since that time. And it's still
Mhm.
growing slowly, but it's still growing. And what you're talking about doing, it's like again, with our education system, we need to move into this century. We need to move
Yes.
forward. You know, we're 25, 26 years in now. You know, we need to be moving into going, these are the spaces that our children are hanging out when they're not sitting in the classroom. And I think it's so important for voices like yours and others who are trying to push this safety space in online gaming and just being online. Yes, it's a new verb, onlining.
Yes. Yes, yes. All right. And then I'll just pivot really quick. Fun fact, I went to a performing arts middle school and I majored in dance. And we actually did not do ballroom dancing. We did everything else. So I can even resonate that we did literally every other type of dance, ballet, modern, tap, jazz, hip hop, all the different things, but we did not do any ballroom dancing. So now I have a bone to pick with my middle school. Alrighty. Are there any other questions or anything you wanted to do?
No, this is amazing. This is an absolutely amazing platform.
Alrighty, wonderful. Well, I have three cliche questions to close us out. These are questions that I ask everybody. So the first one is, if you can think of a time when you were younger and in a darker space, what's one piece of advice that you know now that you really wished you would have known back then?
Ooh, so when I was 12, we moved to a new school system. And not only was it a new school system, it was the rival school system. So it's just a city
Oh,
over. So it's like where I had all these plans. I was going to be a cheerleader and I was going to be on this team. I went dark. I didn't want to make
mm,
friends at the new school. I didn't want to, of course, cheer for the new school. That was
yeah.
not happening. So I went to a different place emotionally and just chose that I wanted to be a loner. And I was okay with
Mm,
it. And as tough as that was actually a huge growing experience
mm,
of going, okay, we're never truly alone. There's other people who are still out there wanting to be friends with us. Let them
mm,
in. It's okay to like have friends in a new place. And just like we talked about, friends will come and friends will go. But that change was one of the biggest growths that I had to go through. And I'm so proud of it. Or I would have never left my little town, suburban
mm.
Cleveland, to be doing some of the things that I'm doing and now as a global movement, as a global company. It would be so
Yes.
different. It was a push to go, okay, you have to adapt. And it's okay. It's not going to kill you. You're going to learn so many new things and you have new opportunities. And guess what? Just like in Girl Scouts, and I was a Girl Scout, make new
Hey.
friends and you can keep the old.
Yes, 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 yes. All right, the second cliche question is, the universe and the internet are very similar and they both work in mysterious ways. So we have no way of knowing who will listen to this at some point. Is there any person, organization, or group that if they were to hear this interview that you would really like to work with?
Wow, that's a great question. Wow, you know, it's fascinating because in my space of work now, I suddenly have a new appreciation for different groups, and particularly nonprofit groups that work with girls, that work with
Mm,
women who are struggling. So I think being able to share messages and that whole piece of vulnerability and visibility and how to get more confident, I would love to be sharing messages with those groups. Absolutely. Because I think, again, it's a hand down to some who just happen to be struggling at the moment. And it's just this moment.
Absolutely, absolutely. And in closing, and then you'll leave us off with one more thing after this, but in pre-closing, of course, I'll put any links that you send in the description. However, if someone wants to specifically work with you or contact you, what's the best way to do that? And then if someone wants to keep up with what you're doing, what's the best way to do that?
Oh, two great questions. So if somebody wants to keep up with me, LinkedIn. Hang out with me on LinkedIn. You know, if you want some of the fun and you don't really want to interact, go ahead, Facebook and Instagram, you know, even a little TikTok is out there. But yes, Christina Vidovich, come in and send me a message on LinkedIn. The other platforms I'm not as quick to answer because I'm not on them every day, but absolutely. And I'm happy to have a conversation. I'm happy to get you started if you're ready for your next level of your visibility journey. Yes.
Absolutely. And then, really, in closing this time, can you leave us off with some words of encouragement for the rest of the week?
Yes. So, one thing I would love you to sit back and do is think about where it's important for you to be visible. Now, again, visibility isn't just getting out there being an influencer on social media. It's not always about
Mm,
speaking on all the big stages. It's about being able to first and foremost see yourself and
mm.
your messaging that you want to bring to the world. What light? If you have a candle and somebody else is holding a candle that's not lit, if you're passing on your fire, what is it that you want to do this week to make somebody else's life a little better? So sit back and write yourself a note for your future self.
Yes. All right, Christina, I'm going to give you a signature round of applause for
Thank you.
a wonderful, wonderful conversation, helping women grow, helping women tell their story, and of course, most of all, helping women get visible. All right, guys, thank you so much for listening. Christina, it was amazing having you on as a guest. On the Healed and Chilled podcast. Listeners, I know you guys got some gems out of that, some educational gems, some healing gems, and some growth gems, which we all need, especially in the world that we all live in all the time. And thank you all for listening. That's all for today, and we will be back for another episode of Healed and Chilled in the very near future.